All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Fantasy with Man McMahon. Today will be our second installment of looking at the fixture analysis for the next 4 weeks of Fantasy Premier League. That includes game weeks 8, 9, 10, and 11. Trying to prepare everybody, including myself, for what strategy to go with for the next 4 game weeks. Obviously, the way that we format it is that we go international break to international break, so next 4 game weeks, and then there'll be the next international break. You get the gist of it. And this one is a bit later because I was waiting to see if there was any injury concerns after the international break, and I'm glad I did because it ends up there were a few. So yeah, we'll get into that, address all the issues. So yeah, let's get right into it. All right, so just like last time, we are going to start off with your must-haves for the next 4 game weeks, and there are 3, count them, 1, 2, 3 must-haves for the next 4 weeks. Number 1. Chelsea. Chelsea players are going to be your friend in the next 4 weeks. So if we take a look at their upcoming fixtures, they got Brentford away, then Norwich at home, then Newcastle away, and then Burnley at home. Like, that is a solid slate of games coming up. So I would suggest, triple up, forward, maybe 2 defenders if you want to go like Alonso and Rudiger or Aspi or whatever. I typically don't go for Chelsea midfielders because they're a bit of a hit or miss, but like Chelsea forwards like Lukaku and Werner, and then of course with the defender, the Chelsea defense has been insane. Second must have number 2, Southampton. They have an incredible lineup of games. Like, it couldn't be much better. And considering the type of trouble they've given to teams like, well, both Manchester United and Manchester City, like who knows, they could actually clean sweep these next 4 games. Anything's possible. So they have Leeds at home, then Burnley at home, then Watford away, and Villa at home. So obviously your 2 main pieces are going to be Tino Livramento and Adam Armstrong. And then the 2 that I'm going to suggest, we'll talk about this more once we get into the strategy section, but the 2 I'm going to suggest are that you're rotating are McCarthy, their goalkeeper, and El Yunusi in the midfield. And then finally, your 3rd must-have. I've been burned by this man by not having him before. It's not even a team, it's just a man. You already know who it is. It is Mo Salah. And honestly, could be a big slate of games for him because let's look at what they've got. They've got Watford away. They've got Man United away. They've got Brighton at home, and they've got West Ham away. And the reason why these are so perfect, I mean, Liverpool against Watford, that's a gimme. Manchester United at home, they dropped points to Everton, and that was just Ole. I didn't know what the hell he was doing. And then honestly, West Ham at home, since August, their last 3 matches at home, West Ham have not won. It's been 2 losses and a draw at home in their last 3. And honestly, with West Ham upcoming fixtures at home, it might be 5 straight without a win. So those are your must-haves for game week 8 through 11. All right, so now that we've addressed your must-haves for the next 4 game weeks, let's talk about the one team above all else that you should be avoiding. And it pains me to say it, but it is Manchester United. It is Man United. That is your team that you don't want to touch with a 10-foot pole. And there are a couple of reasons for it. Well, first of all, let's look at their fixtures. So they start off with Leicester away, then they have Liverpool at home, Tottenham away, and then Manchester City at home. And based on what I saw in the latest fixture against Everton, I don't know what was going on there. That was just an atrocious game. And now that we know that Ole is not afraid to put Ronaldo on the bench, then and Pogba for that matter as well, there's no safety with any of the picks anymore because who knows what's going to happen. Who knows? But yeah, and honestly, part of me is also saying avoid Manchester United because I'm kind of hoping, because the last team I said to avoid, Aston Villa, they ended up having an absolute banging couple of weeks right at the end there. So who knows? Maybe I can reverse jinx this one as well and make Man United play better. Either way, it's a win. Either I was correct and I don't get burned on fantasy, or I'm incorrect, I get burned on fantasy, but I get to see my team do well. So win-win situation. But yeah, so in terms of who you want to be staying with, Ronaldo, of course, he's been put on the bench at least once, and who knows if that's going to happen again. Second is Pogba. He seemed to have really cooled off after he had a phenomenal start to the season, and then he's cooled off. And then finally, Luke Shaw. And honestly, this goes for all Manchester United defenders. It seems like Ole's side, they're a more attacking side, and that's fun to watch. The clean sheets are few and far between. So yeah, all Manchester United players, big ol' avoid on that, but especially on the defenders. So those are the players you don't want anywhere near your fantasy squad in the next 4 weeks. Alright, so now that we've talked about individual teams and individual players for the next 4 weeks, let's talk about potential strategy for the upcoming game week. So, both strategies are going to be the same type of model. So what's going to happen is you're going to have a team for game week 8 and game week 11 that are the same, and a team for game week 9 and game week 10 are the same. Like, it's the same format, and it'll make more sense once I explain both of them. But basically, your game week 8 and 11 team are identical. Game week 9 and 10 team are identical. So this is strategy number 1. So first up, for your game week 8 and game week 11 team, you have something that looks like this. So you have Sanchez, Ramsdale, Janssen, Cancelo, Alonso, Diaz, Livramento, El Yunusi, Rafinha, Mount, Salah, Foden, Armstrong, Lukaku, and Mopai. So what happens here is this strategy, like the other one, it operates under the assumption that you don't already have a huge number of Southampton players in your squad already. Like, I know a bunch of people would have already had Chelsea players and City players and Salah in their lineup. So this is based around a structure of Chelsea, Southampton, and City players as your foundation, and then we bring in Salah, who has great fixtures. We already talked about him in the must-haves. And then Rafinha, this is the thing, Rafinha has decent middle game week fixtures, so like the game week 9 and 10. What's going to happen is he would actually start on your bench. So your actual squad would be a 3-4-3 of Cancelo, Alonso, Diaz, El Yunusi, Mount, Salah, and Foden, and then up front you have Armstrong, Lukaku, and Mopai. So this is the idea behind it, is that once you bring in part 2, I'll show you part 2. Now you rotate out El Yunusi for Doucouré, and you take out either Sanchez or Ramsdale, whichever one you feel like, for McCarthy, and then this is how it would look, and it would be a 3-5-2 of Cancelo, Alonso, Diaz, Doucouré, Rafinha, Mount, Salah, Foden, and then Armstrong and Lukaku up front. So because people like Mopai have a really good game week 8 and game week 11 fixture, he would play those, so you'd have him in your starters for 8 and 11, and then in 9 and 10 you move him to the bench, whereas Rafinha is the inverse, where he might have a tougher 8 and 11 matchup, but a really good 9 and 10, start him on the bench, and then you rotate him in for part 2. I know it's a little bit convoluted, but you get what I'm saying. So like your only 2 transfers would be McCarthy for either keeper, Sanchez and Ramsdale. Just shows those because those are the 2 most common keepers that people have in their team right now. And then El Yunusi going out for Doucouré. So that is strategy 1. Built around, Alonso, Rudiger, or Aspi, Chilwell. Any of those Chelsea defenders can slot in there. Cancelo and Diaz have been the 2 main staples of City's attack from the back. Livramento, I'm guessing most people just have him. Janssen is just any defender. That's just who is in my team already. With Foden, he has had a really good international campaign, and maybe Pep starts to put him into the squad more. And if he doesn't, you can still have Rafinha, who would sub in for him. Like, even if Rafinha doesn't have a fantastic game in game week 8 and 11, he would still be better than nothing. And in the event Foden doesn't play, yeah. Salah is Salah. We've talked about that. Armstrong, Southampton can run riot. Lukaku. So let's talk about the injury issue. Well, actually, I'm going to hold off on that. Mopai, like I said, great game week 8 and 11. I think game week 11 he goes up against Newcastle, and game week 8 he goes up against Norwich. So he can score a lot of goals. So now let's talk about Lukaku, and this will actually transition me into strategy 2. But first off, Lukaku, he's a bit of an injury concern after Belgium's international break. So there was a little bit of something not too great. I think they called it a muscle overload. So I'm not entirely sure what that means, but Lukaku, it's up in the air right now. So let's move on to strategy 2, and this is how it's a bit riskier with strategy 2, but you're playing the numbers in terms of what injuries are going to keep players out and which players are going to be returning from injury. All right. Now that we've talked about strategy 1, strategy 2 is going to be basically identical. However, you are going to be playing a little bit of injury roulette. So what is different? So I'll put both squads on screen right now. As you can see, identical. But the only thing that I've done here is I've taken out Lukaku for Werner, and I've taken out Diaz for Trent. And with the Trent substitution, that can be done for any of the defenders, but just to visualize it, I have chosen Diaz, but really you can swap them out for anyone, up to you. So this one you're playing a little bit of a risky game here because Lukaku, it's like they were being very vague about his injury, just calling it a muscle overload. So who knows whether or not he's going to be ready for Saturday. And with Trent, I mean, he didn't even play in the City game before the international break and didn't play at all for England. So that's also very much up in the air because it's an adductor injury, which those can be very unpredictable at times. So it's a bit of a risky play. Werner, I think, is still a good differential pick regardless of Lukaku being out because he'll still get good gameplay. But the issue is, it's not say with having Lukaku in, like it's one or the other. You can, like, it's going to be very tough to get a decent team while having both of those guys in your lineup. But it is possible. You're just going to have to make sacrifices elsewhere. So and it depends on what your current team is going into game week 8 in terms of how you have it set up prior to this week's matchups and whether or not you have free hit or wildcard left. But yeah, same strategy, like pretty much identical. So for game week 8, it would be Cancelo, Alonso, Trent, El Yunusi, Mount, Salah, Foden, Armstrong, Werner, Mopai, and then you do the same subs. You transfer out Sanchez or whoever for McCarthy, transfer out El Yunusi for Doucouré, and then you bring in Rafinha and move Mopai to the bench. So it's a 3-5-2 with Cancelo, Alonso, Trent, Doucouré, Rafinha, Mount, Salah, Foden, Armstrong, Werner. So it's largely like it's almost identical, but you were just playing that injury roulette in terms of will Trent be back and will Lukaku play. It's very much up in the air, but yeah. That is strategy 2, and honestly, I feel like both strategies are pretty solid in terms of making sure that you are minimizing transfers and maximizing points, and as well as leaving chips up for with this squad, like either of them with either strategy. If you wanted to play bench boost, you could and probably get a fairly decent haul in any of these game weeks. So bench boost or triple captain, I think these two strategies leave you the most opportunity for making big gains and avoiding red arrows, as we have all been accustomed to for the past few weeks. All right, well that about does it for me. Hopefully you found this video helpful, and hopefully you're feeling a little bit more confident and have a better idea of how you're going to approach the next 4 game weeks. Yeah, so later this week on Thursday will be my team reveal for game week number 8. And then, I believe either next week or the week after that is match day 3 for the UCL after a massive match day 2 for myself. Not to pat myself on the back too hard. But yeah, if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, I'll see you Thursday. Have a good one, and peace.